There's this thing that happens in the middle of a perfectly calm conversation. Nothing's wrong. Nobody's yelling. And yet something inside you just trips. Your chest tightens. Your words disappear. Or you go the other direction and say too much. Explain everything twice. Fill every silence like it's an emergency. And afterward, you sit with this quiet humiliation. Why did I do that? Like some part of you is fundamentally miscalibrated. Like everyone else got a manual and yours got lost. Here's what nobody tells you about that moment. It wasn't a failure. It was a signal. An incredibly precise, well-trained signal that your nervous system has been practicing for years, maybe decades. And the reason it feels so out of place now is that it was built for somewhere else. Your nervous system isn't dramatic. It isn't irrational. It's honest. Painfully. Almost embarrassingly honest. It keeps a record of everything that ever felt dangerous. Not in words, not in narrative, but in sensation. In the particular tension of a shoulder. In the way a certain tone of voice lands somewhere below the ribcage. It doesn't editorialize. It just reports. This pattern resembles something that once cost you something. Pay attention. The problem is, we never learned to translate it. We learned to judge it. We got called sensitive, too much, reactive, difficult. And because that framing came from people we trusted, people who were also just working with what they had, we internalized it. We decided the alarm system was broken, rather than asking what it had learned to detect. But here's what's actually happening underneath all of it. The nervous system is organized around one fundamental question. Am I safe right now? Not safe in the abstract. Safe in the body. Safe in the relationship. Safe enough to be here. To be open. To not need an exit. And it answers that question constantly, dozens of times a day, without asking your opinion. The parts of your brain responsible for survival are always running, always scanning, always cross-referencing the present with everything they've ever stored. When your environment was unpredictable, not necessarily catastrophic, just unpredictable, your nervous system adapted. It widened the definition of threat. It learned to read microsignals. A slight change in someone's breathing, a pause before an answer. The specific silence that means something is wrong versus the silence that means nothing at all. It became extraordinary at pattern recognition, hypervigilant, which gets called paranoid, attuned to tension before it surfaces, which gets called anxious, fluent in the language of what people don't say, which gets called a lot of things. And the thing is, that skill was genuinely useful. Once. It was protective. It kept you oriented in an environment where orientation mattered, where missing a signal had consequences. The nervous system did its job beautifully. It just didn't know when to stop. This is where it gets interesting, because the patterns that make people difficult are almost always just adaptations that outlasted their original context. Take shutting down in conflict. Dorsal vagal response, which basically means the nervous system hits the emergency brake when fight or flight feel too costly. Freeze. Go quiet. Disappear a little. From the outside, that looks like stonewalling or avoidance or not caring. From the inside, it feels like being suddenly underwater. Like the words just aren't there. Not because you don't care, but because your nervous system made a calculation. This is the kind of moment where showing up costs too much. It learned that somewhere. It's just still running the old program. Or the over-explaining, the 3-paragraph text, the compulsive need to justify. That's not insecurity for its own sake. That's a nervous system that learned that misunderstanding had consequences. that it was safer to leave no room for misinterpretation, that clarity was protection. It's incredibly logical. It just exhausts people, including yourself, or the one that really stays with me: difficulty receiving care. Someone does something genuinely kind, and something in you goes sideways, deflects it, minimizes it, waits for the catch. And because kindness, at some point, came with conditions, or it preceded something hard, or it simply wasn't reliable enough to trust, and so the nervous system filed it under ambiguous rather than safe. And now warmth triggers suspicion instead of ease, and you look ungrateful or closed off, and neither label is right. The nervous system isn't ungrateful. It's just doing what it learned. This is what mislabeling does. It adds a layer. Now the original wound has a second wound on top of it. The story that you're the problem, that your reactions are evidence of something defective in you, rather than something intelligent that got overgeneralized. And that second wound is often the louder one, because you can't logic your way out of it, because you believe it, because the people who named you difficult weren't necessarily wrong about the behavior. They were wrong about the cause. Your nervous system is not broken. It is doing exactly what it learned to do, with total commitment and zero ambiguity. It is the most honest thing about you. And here's what changes when you actually land that. You stop spending so much energy fighting yourself. You stop trying to override the alarm before you've even heard what it's reporting. You get curious instead of ashamed. What did this response just notice? What pattern did it recognize? What does it think it's protecting me from? Not because the answer excuses everything. Not because understanding means staying stuck, but because you cannot work with something you're at war with. You cannot gently update a system you're trying to override by force. The goal isn't to become someone with no nervous system response. That person isn't healed. That person is numb. The goal is to be able to hear what yours is saying, and then decide, consciously from the present, not the past, what to do with that information. Your nervous system never lied to you. It just learned in conditions that are no longer here. And now you get to show it something new. Not by forcing it, not by shaming it, but by staying. By being safe enough, consistently enough, that eventually, slowly, in its own time, it updates the file. You were never too much. You were just working with what you had. Both of you were.